The following is a project of our nonprofit newsroom. Support Midcoast Morning and local community-centered journalism today by signing up to be a monthly sustaining donor at chly.ca/donate. It doesn't take much money to support local news.
Hello and welcome to Midcoast Morning. I'm Joe Pugh. The BC Roadshow made a stop in Cedar, looking to get more young people interested in becoming heavy equipment operators. The Roadshow is a trailer that contains simulators for various pieces of heavy machinery, things like excavators. It visits schools in the province in an effort to make students aware of the possibility of pursuing a career in construction. Industry groups say there's a shortage of labor in the construction industry right now. Today on the program, we'll explore the pathway to getting into that line of work. The Roadshow is supported by a grant of just under $4 million from the provincial government. Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction, CHLY Malcolmson, was in attendance when the Roadshow stopped at Cedar Secondary Thursday morning.
BC Road Builders came to us 3 years ago now and said they had this vision of connecting with all of their membership who are having a hard time getting enough workers to build the highways and the roads that the province is funding, that they saw a real gap, and they thought that if they could inspire secondary school students early, that they may be able to help people in with their education path. So we worked together, and we're so happy to see this is like very much a model of our government where we go to where the people are. You don't wait for the trade fair, the job fair for people to come to. BC Road Builders had a vision of taking simulation equipment right into parking lots of schools and universities and job fairs where we can really get people fired up about the sector. And it's really working. Anybody that's good with video games just seems to have like a natural ability to test drive, being a heavy equipment operator, really good paying job. And when young people can see that path early, then I can just see the spark is really getting lit.
Did you give it a test drive? What was that like?
I was highly accurate, but apparently the pace of my work would not really have been a great fit for the employers. And practice makes perfect, right?
You talked about there's like a shortage of people working in this industry. From your perspective, from your ministry, have you identified what are the barriers you've identified that are preventing people from getting in? Is it just that they don't know about this, or are there other factors?
Yeah. Across our BC NDP government, we've got a jobs plan that identifies gaps in between employers and workers. And what my ministry really focuses on is the people that just haven't been able to get where they want to go. Sometimes that's immigrant women fleeing gender-based violence. Sometimes that's just simply the distance. Someone in a remote community in the north not being able to get to the kind of training that they need to get that next better paying job. In this case, it's just simply people don't always think of working in the trades, and they don't always think of working road builders. And I was really grabbed by our ability to connect school districts with the heavy industry sector and to be able to bring them together. And it's not a big thing to be able to fund the trailer, but it's huge impact across the whole province.
Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction, CHLY Malcolmson, speaking Thursday as the BC Roadshow visited Cedar Secondary. Also in attendance was Matt Pitcairn, president of the BC Road Builders and Heavy Construction Association, an organization that represents more than 280 companies in the BC road building and maintenance sector. A lot of industries are kind of going through this shortage of workers. How do you get people interested in choosing this one in particular?
Great question, and the Roadshow trailer is our answer to that. So we have been going around the province. We've had over 8,000 potential job seekers through the trailer in our first year, and we're giving them a hands-on virtual experience of what it's like to be a heavy equipment operator. And then we have brochures, we have pamphlets, we have information about post-secondary opportunities. So in addition to giving them a virtual feel, we have pathways and real information to get them started.
If I'm 18, I'm graduating high school, what kind of training do I need to go through? What kind of career can I expect? What are the pathways into this?
Yeah, so if you want to work in the civil construction sector out of high school, if you have the right attitude, you're willing to show up, there's opportunities in every community in the province. And you can show up and start as a junior laborer and quickly progress into heavy equipment operation and other opportunities. If you have, again, the right attitude, you like what you're doing and you want to progress, there's really no barriers to entry. And we have members in every part of BC that are looking for young people like that.
Is this something that I need to, say, go to school for and do like a certification to get my heavy equipment operator and then go to employers? Or is it the kind of thing where I would go to an employer who needs someone and then kind of work my way up from there?
Yeah, good question. So if you want to be a snowplow operator, you need a Class 1 license. So that requires training and getting that certificate. If you want to be a heavy-duty mechanic, there's, of course, an apprenticeship and a pathway to become a heavy-duty mechanic. If you want to be a heavy equipment operator, you can start with an employer and work your way into that position. Or there's other opportunities through VIU or other training institutions where you can go and do a ticket, but it's not mandatory to be a heavy equipment operator.
Can you give me an idea of kind of the wages I can expect if I go into this career, both when I'm starting out and then maybe like a kind of more average?
Yeah, so like a junior heavy equipment operator, you can be looking for $25 to $40 an hour to start. And once you've been in that role for a number of years and you become an expert equipment operator, there's huge potential, getting into the $70 to $100 an hour.
What is the demand like relative to geography, which is maybe a clunky way of saying if I am looking to get into this, how easy is it going to be to find a job where I live?
Yeah, great question. So, there is different levels of work in different parts of the province. In the Lower Mainland, for example, there's a huge expansion project underway for the next 5 to 10 years on Highway 1. So huge opportunities. There was Site C recently. We had the Trans Mountain Pipeline. So, some of the work is more centered ongoing in the local areas. Other is project specific, so you may be moving to different parts of the province depending on what the work and where it is.
And how is this career as far as, construction projects happen in different places at different times and could be seasonal? How often is this a job where I have an employer and I work 40 hours a week for 50 weeks of the year, and how often is it seasonal? What's that balance like?
I think more and more with just the housing crisis and the need for more infrastructure, we're seeing more and more demand and more construction emerging. So right now, I think it's a great opportunity. If you're a young person looking for a long, stable career, construction can provide that. And that demand is going to continue for many, many years as we look at the housing and infrastructure maintenance and upgrades that are required to keep BC going forward.
Do you have a sense of just what the numbers are, how pronounced the need for labor is in this?
So I can't speak specifically to BC, but I can tell you, in Canada, we're expecting about 80,000 experienced tradespeople to retire in the next 5 years. So that alone will create 8,000 positions. And then you combine that with the emerging growth of the industry, and again, that demand for housing and upgraded infrastructure, there's huge demand for tradespeople across the country, not just in the civil construction sector, but in all aspects of the construction sector.
Is the only barrier to getting into this career me just deciding I want to do it? Like, what kind of qualifications do I need?
Well, it depends on what aspect. If there's certain area construction, like if you want to be in the civil construction sector and get a job tomorrow as a laborer, you can start right away. Again, you have the right attitude, you're willing to show up. If you want to pursue a red seal trade, then you need to find an apprenticeship, and there's an education component. So, it depends on which area you want to go into specifically, but I can guarantee that every one of our members, the employers in BC, want to support people, they want to grow that talent, and whether it's an apprenticeship, whether it's, their training, those opportunities are there, and we will do everything we can as an industry to reduce those barriers to get you in.
Has the industry evolved in any significant ways in the last 10 or 20 years that maybe people would have misconceptions about what it is like to work in construction?
Yeah, I think, a lot of people have this image in their head of, this old school construction world dominated by men. And we're seeing that start to change. We're seeing more and more women entering the sector. 11% of our highway maintenance sector are First Nations background compared to 6%, which is the provincial average. So we're seeing more and more diversity coming into the industry, which we welcome and encourage and think is fantastic. So the industry is changing very quickly.
Is there anything else you think people need to know about just the pathways into the trades?
I think if I give one message, just say, the civil construction sector and highway maintenance sector provides great family supporting careers. And those careers aren't just centered in Vancouver, they're in every corner of the province. So I would encourage anyone looking for a long-term stable job to check out bcroadshow.ca, look at our careers page, which is broken up by region, by different companies, and check out some of the opportunities that we have to offer.
Matt Pitcairn is president of the BC Road Builders and Heavy Construction Association. We were speaking outside Cedar Secondary School Thursday at an event promoting career opportunities in construction. At the event, I also spoke with CHLY Jones, who's pursuing training to become a heavy equipment operator.
I'm CHLY Jones. I'm 17. I actually went here at Cedar Secondary School. It's pretty cool. Now in the HEO program for heavy-duty equipment operator. It's pretty cool.
What made you make that decision to get involved in that program?
I always kind of just grew up around machinery with my dad and his business, and when the roadside show had come to VIU, Nathan and I got offered to go and do that, and I accepted because it was a really cool opportunity to get started with it. But using all the simulators, it was actually really cool to get going on it, and then some of the actual machines there too. It was actually really cool to actually get to use them, and then it showed me a cool place I can get to and got me on the right track, and I'm happy where I'm at now. I'm excited for the HEO after my course.
Yeah, can you tell me what your course is like? What kinds of things do you do in the day?
Yeah, so right now we're just doing the theory part of it, so just textbook work. So there's 4 modules, 4 books. Currently we're just on Module C. It's just about surveying and soils and all of that. Just doing daily quizzes on learning all of that stuff, and then after a couple more weeks there, we get up to Timberlands Pit for VIU and actually get to operate the machinery there, and then we do... Depend on what you're specializing in, who's in my class. I'll be up there for 3 to 4 weeks with specializing in loader, and then I get to go on to work experience. So, yeah. So you're in class for about 3 or 4 weeks, and then you're up at the pit doing what you need, what you're specialized in.
Have you thought about what that work experience will be like? Do you have, say, a goal, or do you picture what you want to be doing in, 5-10 years with this?
Something big gravel pit. Just running loader, making gravel, mixing soils. Yeah, just running all the machineries that I can. Just hoping one day maybe live it on a camp doing it. Just wake up, start my loader, go have some fun. But, yeah.
Is there any particular piece of heavy machinery that you're most excited to operate?
Loader and excavator. I was hoping to specialize in the excavator, but I ended up doing loader, and maybe in a couple of years I might go back and do that. But for now, I'm happy with loader. But excavator and loader are my favorites. They're really cool to operate, and when you're doing the simulators, it's actually really cool from how realistic they can be. Just like the joysticks, yeah, they can be touchy, but it is touchy when you're actually operating the real machine. So knowing that you can start out with the simulators and getting to actually get to do HEO, it's pretty cool.
Have you gotten the chance yet to get your hands on a real machine?
Just with my dad, not through the course yet. We're still doing the theory part, but yeah, I've operated a few machines with my dad and everything. Yeah, pretty cool.
Is there anything else you think it's important that people know about this roadshow or the industry, or are there parts of it you feel like people don't talk about enough?
It's a good little experience, especially if you're thinking about HEO, because all the simulators are so realistic. It's nice to be able to have that option to start and try. If you get the option to do the roadside and HEO, do it, because it's a good start. If you have that little peak in interest, it will get you on a good path.
CHLY, thanks so much for taking the time.
No problem. Thank you.
CHLY Jones is pursuing a course in heavy equipment operation. Dave Travers was also in attendance Thursday. He's district principal for the Career Technical Center for School District 68. It offers high school students the chance to go through work experience programs to get a sense of different careers. Travers says he's looking for more businesses in Nanaimo who are interested in welcoming students into the fold.
So the Career Technical Center helps students transition from high school into careers. And one of the areas that we've been focusing is of the trades. Students actually in their grade 12 year, they leave their high school, they go to VIU, and they learn to be office admin, hairdressers, welders, electricals, carpentry, automotive technicians. So many different opportunities that they have. But that program can only hold so many students. So what do we do with the student that is still interested in a certain trade or a certain career and, doesn't have an opportunity to go to university and have that? Well, the Ministry of Education offers a program called Work Experience. And Work Experience is where someone can go and work in a job. It's an unpaid experience. They do probably between, anywhere from 60 to 100 hours. It's completely volunteer, but they learn to see what it would be like to do that job. And that then helps them figure out, is this an area that I want to go into? And we've kind of termed it the world's greatest interview, because how many people have an opportunity to have someone work in their business for free and figure out, if, maybe they actually might even hire the person right out of high school from this, because they've interviewed so well and they fit into their business. So for example, if a student couldn't get into carpentry but wants to be a carpenter, are there, construction companies around here that would be willing to say, hey, I'd take a student to have them work and learn about the trades and give them an authentic experience.
Anytime you talk about young people doing unpaid work experience, maybe you need to think like, oh, that sounds like they're in a vulnerable situation. What kinds of guardrails are there in place if someone is a young person and they're going to go volunteer their time to learn about a career or an industry? Well,
it's a ministry designed course, and so there is coverage as far as WorkSafe BC. They are still covered. There, you do have that ability, right? So there is safeties. There are we have paperwork which is totally manageable, but it's there's we make sure that the work site is safe and that they get a good orientation, and so we have that all ready to go. We're just looking to create a database of businesses that are willing to take students, so that when we have a student that comes up to us and says, hey, I'm really interested in becoming a veterinarian, and I said, oh, it's perfect. We actually have 2 or 3 businesses that are, vet, emergency centers. And why couldn't you volunteer at those and learn to see what it's like? And the beautiful thing about that is, like, students don't know what it's like to work in those businesses. So why don't we provide them an authentic opportunity for them to have that experience and determine if that's really what they want to do? I think it's going to bring the education system and the community close together.
So the framework is there, the students are there, you just need people in businesses willing to take people on?
100%, that's what we need.
And if I am a business and that sounds like something I want to do, what is my next step? How do I do that?
You connect with the Career Technical Center. I can provide that information. You phone us up and you talk to me, and let's get your information, put us in your database, and let's see what we can do to find a student that could be your next best employee.
Thank you so much for telling me about it.
Thank you for your time.
Dave Travers is District Principal for the Technical Center for School District 68.
Midcoast Morning is made possible by the Community Radio Fund of Canada and generous listeners like you. Support and grow our nonprofit newsroom project today at chly.ca/donate with a monthly or one-time donation. With your support, we can expand Midcoast Morning from 2 to 3 original programs per week to cover local news, current affairs, and arts and culture.
We've been talking about pathways into working in the trades on today's program. The BC Roadshow, which is a trailer with heavy machine simulators, made a stop at Cedar Secondary School Thursday. Vancouver Island University offers a course in heavy equipment operation. After some in-class time, students head to a worksite near the Nanaimo Airport. That's where I caught up with Program Chair Andy Coles.
We have a lot of interest into the course. We are booked up, probably going into, into the August course already. So we get filled up pretty quick. Seats get taken really quickly. We have probably about 90% success rate with students coming out of here and getting employment. It does depend a lot on the ambition and the incentive of a student to get out there and find that, right? We can help a lot of the times, but we do encourage them to go and kind of pound the pavement themselves and meet people, right? Meet those employers, kind of find out what they're looking for. We are also teaching students to run machines, but not just to be an operator, right? We teach them how to service the machines, basic maintenance of machines, daily maintenance of machines, safe operating around machines. And we go through several tasks. They're up to 8 weeks they're out here, so they get about 200 hours on the excavators. Different machines there are different time limits for them. 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So you got about 150 hours on something like a dozer, 150 hours on something like a loader, whereas you're going with 200 hours onto an excavator. So we got people coming in and they go anywhere up and down the island. They also go right across Canada, some of them. A lot of them will go into Alberta, go into the oil fields or into mining. It's a very diverse industry, right? Just because it's a heavy equipment industry, there's a lot of portions to a heavy equipment industry. We get people going into forestry, building forest roads, work in the forest industry, like I say, mining, oil fields, lease lots, civil work. It is quite a large industry for sure.
Are the students, for the most part, people who have said, hey, this is a career I want to get into? Or are they maybe people who have been working already as, say, a junior laborer on a construction site and have said, oh, if I get this certification, it can help my career advance?
It's both. We have people come out that are brand new, never been onto machines. We have people that have ran machines and they'll come in to get their ticket for the machines. And we have people that are just changing career altogether. We do have people that maybe got injured in their last career, so they're looking for an occupational change. We have been I've been starting with Victoria with CRD, and we're doing a safety awareness course for those people that work on the ground around machines, because there's all kind of safety issues that you want to be aware of when you're working close to heavy machinery that a lot of people aren't aware of, right? It's just, if you don't know, you don't know. So we get everything. We get ranges from, you're probably 16, 17 years old, right up to 60 years old. Different industries. Everybody comes from different spots, which is pretty fantastic. You meet a lot of different kind of people, and they're in here for different reasons. Some people come in because they want to start their own company. Some people come in because they want to go right up into the mining world and, go chasing the big bucks. Some people come in just for a change of career. Some people even come in just to teach themselves or be taught how to run machines so they can do it on their own private land, right? So it's a very diverse group of people that we usually get in. And we are seeing a lot more women in the industry, which is fantastic. Women make fantastic operators. And it's nice, like I say, that diversity, right? Getting out into the field. So it's good.
You talked a little bit about safety there. One piece of this we maybe outside of the industry we hear about in the media is folks working in the trades who have maybe experienced substance use issues. When you're working with people presumably at the start of their careers in an educational role, is that kind of thing, I don't know if you would say it's the culture or just safety beyond on the job site, is that something that you talk about?
It's substance abuse?
Yeah.
We do. Yeah, we actually have people come in and put up presentations about substance abuse, because in the construction industry, it's the percentage is very high to people that are abusing certain substances. And when you get onto a piece of heavy equipment, if you're under the influence, you can do a lot of damage or potentially kill people. So we do have people come in and talk about it for sure. It is, it gets crazy, for lack of a better word, in the industry if that's not brought to attention. For sure, simple things, right? I mean, marijuana is legal now, which makes it difficult. Alcohol, of course. Anything like that. But there is also the harder drugs that people get into, and they still try and run machines, which is not ideal. It's not encouraged by any means. And we do our best to try and bring awareness to that fact. So these new operators that are getting out there, they can understand that when you speak up about something like that, it's not about ratting someone out. It's about creating a safe culture to work in, so everybody can go home under their own power every day.
You mentioned that your guess is about 90% of the people who go through the program stick on with their apprenticeship, whoever they're doing their apprenticeship with. What is the career path for someone coming out of a program like this who sticks on with their employer? What kind of salary can they expect? What kind of advancement opportunities?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, it depends on what kind of industry they're getting into. If you get into civil work, you could be expected to get onto the ground, and it is a little bit of disheartening for some students because they've been taking heavy equipment training and then they find themselves on the ground. But what that does, it creates a better operator. So if you're digging a ditch and you've already worked in that ditch, as an operator, you know what that ditch crew needs because you've been there. So you know when they need sand or when pipe's coming or what the process is for going through that. It builds a better operator. Now, I mean, that can start a little bit lower on the wage, at 25, 30 bucks an hour kind of thing. Whereas you could go north and get into mining, you get into oil fields, things like that, where your wage is going to be a bit higher. But there's a trade-off. You get into mining, that's bulking material. That's not fine grading like you would in something like civil work. And that is part of the reason why you're going to work in the ground before you're going to get into a machine in civil work. If you're digging up, say, a gas line or any utility, you're working in very fine tolerances to be able to get to that utility without damaging that utility. Now, if you work in a mine, you're moving mass amounts of material. That's where your money is, right? You're moving mountains of material. So it's not such a fine grade that you'd be working with. We often said in civil work is to the millimeter, mining work is to the meter. And that means you have that tolerance that most of the work I did in civil work was within a quarter of an inch. So I had a quarter of an inch tolerance. Now in mining, you have about a meter of tolerance. So because we're stripping and we're moving mass amounts of material. Wage is higher with mining and oil field work. Skill is higher with something like civil work.
Would you say, so the starting wage is like $25 to $30 and that's on the low end? What is the median? What is the salary someone can expect to get a few years into this?
Oh, you could be, civil work, you could probably be comfortable with 35, 40 bucks an hour in civil work. When you get northern, you're doing camp work. So usually it's rotational work. You can get up 50, 60 bucks an hour working camp work. But if you work 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, you're working for 2 weeks and then you're off for 2 weeks. So you kind of balance that money out a little bit. It is pretty lucrative. You can make a lot of money, if you're going north or working in those big companies like a Suncor. Suncor is kind of like the NFL of heavy equipment in this side of Canada for sure. And you can expect nice wages, but they also take very good care of you, right? You get like your medical, your dental, there's bonuses, there's flights, there's all kinds of stuff that go into that salary.
Specific to heavy equipment operating, or maybe just the industry in general, as someone instructing people getting into this field, how do you talk about like managing your health over, say you're doing this career for 10, 20, 30 years? How do you approach that subject?
Oh, that's good. I don't hear that too often. That's a good question. Well, we go through it with students. So every day we start out with toolbox talks, which is going to happen onto a job site. And one of our toolbox talks that we talk about is maintenance and maintaining yourself, maintaining your equipment, maintaining your job site. So how do you maintain yourself, right? Proper rest, proper hydration, proper nutrition. And we encourage that all the way through. If you're not much good to operate a machine if you're not working as well as you can work. So if, say, you're lacking sleep, you might not be paying attention to everything that you need to pay attention to, which could result in an injury, damage to other machines or surrounding areas. But we definitely try and push it, and we try and help students fall into that more of a healthy role. You get into camp situations or environments, you have kitchens, right? There's chefs there, or there's cooks, and they supply all your kind of food and stuff like that. So often there is a little bit of ups and downs. There's always the bad food associated with everything, but it's tried to be looked at as healthy. There is a lot of companies as well. They will pay for gym memberships for you because sitting in a machine, you're sitting static all the time. You're not out, you're not moving around, and they encourage you to get into gyms and maintain your health. Most big companies, like Suncor's, for example, there is gyms in the camps. And then, like I say, they encourage that kind of stuff, right? Because they want you to be happy, healthy. Most sites that I've been on to, there is always a journey for 0 incidents and 0 health infractions in a year. And usually they're giving out very high incentives for things like that, right? I mean, in a year with one of the civil companies I worked with, they would give us bonuses a couple $1,000s at the end of the year if there was no injuries or no health issues throughout that year, which is incentive us to take care of ourselves. You get into big companies, they give you, there's all kinds of things. There could be TVs or, very lucrative things that are nice to be able to take home. I got oven mitts once, so there's that. But yeah, it is definitely encouraged throughout the whole industry for safety, health, for sure.
I think one of the things we hear a lot about outside of the construction world is just that there is a demand for people to work in the industry. And then you hear that there aren't a ton of barriers to getting in to start doing training in it. You hear that it can be pretty lucrative work. How do those two things match up? How do you get more people interested in working in the industry and like filling that demand?
Well, I think that comes down to just awareness. A lot of contractors that I've spoken to on the island, they were just unaware of our program, and bringing people into that program so they can grow through the program, with having the awareness of just that, right? That you can get into a program. I think there is a little bit of a divide between people not understanding the path to get into the industry as something like, say, they might look at it like there's more schooling involved. There has to be more training involved. But with that said, coming out of this school, you are still a fundamental foundation level operator. You're not a professional operator yet, right? There's years to be putting in to get to something like that. There is a lot of growth available. Like I say, you might start off on the ground and you work yourself into a machine. And that's for a couple of reasons, because there's very fine tolerances. There's production that has to be met. Things have to be taken place properly, so we're still moving forward. Whereas you put somebody green into an environment like digging up a water line, maybe they're going to strike it and then we're going to have damage to it. But that whole awareness, just to knowing that is a pathway for a lot of people. We get a lot of people come through here that are very hands-on people, right? They're out in the dirt, maybe not so bookworky kind of people, but you get them onto a machine and they just get right on it, right? And it clicks and you can see it. And they can, you can see those eyes widen and you can see that there's already a career started with those students. And it just comes down to that awareness.
So maybe a way to think about this is if I'm 18, I come and I do the program. It takes me 5-ish months, if I've got that right. It's not like I'm going to come out and be the guy running the excavator every day, but it's maybe I'm working for someone and maybe there are chances to use the excavator once in a while. And because I've got that cert, it's going to open that door for me.
For sure, 100%. Like when students finish their training on machines here, we have a work experience portion of our program where they go out and they work with an employer, unpaid, so they can get out there, and it gives them an opportunity to see what an operator does, how they grow, how they move through, that growth period. So they could often start right on the ground. Like I say, they can start on the ground working with a shovel or maybe doing labor and kind of work with a game plan in place to eventually get into those machines. And what I've noticed with a lot of employers, what they'll do is they'll put you on the basic machines, right? Can you run that? Because in something like, say, a civil environment, there's a lot of congestion. So there's a lot of hazards around you. And people might not be aware of that. In our course, we have a very controlled environment. So we mitigate the hazards and we kind of control what happens. In the field, it's a little bit different, right? There's hazards everywhere. There's people that just walk up, cars are going by, things like that. So we can't put green operators into those places, but they can start and they can build their way up. What I often suggest to students is talk to that employer and tell them what you want. Like, this is the plan that I want. I don't mind being on a packer or on the ground with a plan in place that eventually I will get into a seat. There is also what's called oilers. And an oiler is a new operator that gets out and works with another operator. So they help change the fluids or fill the fluids up, grease the machine, change the buckets, those kind of things out on the ground. They also serve as a second set of eyes for that operator. How that's supposed to work is when that operator gets into a job that is at the skill level of that oiler, they are supposed to let the oiler into the machine, run the machine, get a little bit of skill. And if now that job gets a little bit more technical, that operator would get back in, take over, mentor that oiler. So eventually that oiler is going to work his way into it, gaining the experience, gaining the time in it, and the confidence to be able to perform these skills that we do on the machines.
Is there anything we haven't talked about so far about either the program or just the industry that you think it's important to let people know?
Well, I think the industry, I love the industry. I think it's a great industry. It's a great industry that you can grow in. When I started in the industry, I had no idea that I would become an instructor in the industry. So there's growth, there's pathways that you are probably unaware of. And as you work through the industry, you might find these niches that you just didn't even consider before getting into the industry. It is fantastic. There's a fantastic group of guys that, in every company that I've ever worked with. And a lot of the guys, a lot of the senior operators, with me anyways, that we found they're very open to teach you, right? Show you these little skills, show you these tricks, show you how you can move your career forward just piece at a time.
Andy, thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, you are very welcome. Thank you.
Andy Coles is chair of the Heavy Equipment Operator Program at Vancouver Island University. That's our show for the day. Thank you for joining me. I'm Joe Pugh, host and producer of Midcoast Morning. Jesse Woodward is our executive producer, and Arby Frew is our technical advisor. You can sign up for CHLY's newsletter at chly.ca/subscribe for updates from our nonprofit newsroom and more. Our theme song is First One by local Nanaimo band Waste Management. If you have a story you'd like us to cover, email us at news@chly.ca. That's all for now. I'll talk to you on another Midcoast Morning.
Midcoast Morning would not be possible without the funding of the Community Radio Fund of Canada's Radio Meters program and listeners like you. Midcoast Morning is a project of CHLY's nonprofit newsroom. Support nonprofit journalism in Nanaimo and on the Salish Sea today by becoming a monthly sustaining donor at $5 or more per month. Support the program at chly.ca/donate. Finally, this program acknowledges and gives thanks to the Snuneymuxw First Nation as we broadcast and podcast from their traditional territory. Thanks for listening.